Hello, and welcome to my newest review. We're going to be switching up genres a little bit. I've pretty much only covered hip hop up to this point, but I want to expand and do some more. So, we are going to be diving into the Men I Trust discography. They are a Canadian group. Originally, it started off as two high school friends, Jesse and Dragos, in Canada, and this is their first project. Obviously, it came out in 2014, and overall it's not one I really revisit too much, as I feel with over time they just expand and perfect their sound better and better. This is still a pretty decent starting point for the duo. Now, at this point, they did not have a lead singer. It was just the two of them, and they were producing, and they were getting different vocalists to come on and do different tracks with them. Eventually, they would have their lead singer Emma join up with them in 2016 after being featured on their second project. But as for this one, we have different vocalists on each track. There are some pretty good highs on this. I would say that the starting track, A Cycle, is very smooth and is a nice, soft intro to get you into the project. It definitely has very gentle vocals from Odile. All of the features on here are just their first names, except for, I believe, one. And to my knowledge, none of these people are actual, big singers or established artists. I'm not sure if these are their friends that are featured. So I really won't be talking about the actual features themselves too much, other than saying how they performed, because personally I couldn't really find too much on who they were. But Odile, who is the feature on this, is really nice. I think that Men I Trust, they seem to work really well with female artists, as that is the people that they have on their tracks before they get Emma is primarily who they work with. They do work with at least one guy later on in this track, or later on in this album, and we'll talk about that. But her soft, gentle voice goes really well with this. Then you go into Dazed, which is quite a big change from the first track. It's not that this one isn't calming, but this one's more dancey. It's still chill at the same time, but the best way I can describe this is background music. I feel like this is something you would hear playing in a store, or you would put on when you're doing something around the house, not really paying attention to what you're listening to. It's kind of strange. I have a feeling that maybe going into this album, when they were making it, that they didn't properly think of what they were going to be doing, and maybe just making songs and then putting them together, or they knew that this project was going to be a little all over the place and were fine with that because this is just them establishing their sound. And that's how I feel this track is. I mean, you have a super smooth and gentle opener, and then this dancey but yet at the same time laid back song that seems to be a bit more electronic based. Not bad, but like I said, it's not one of my favorites. I do like the next one, Stay True. It is calming but yet funky. I really like this. Not much really to say. Again, it's got good vocals on it. There's really no bad vocal performances on any of these songs, but I just like to say that it is a good vocal performance. A Prayer is another really good song. It's not one I really visit too much, but it definitely fulfills a very specific type of mood. And I feel is one of the ones that actually feels like they knew what they were doing when they were making this. Just not personally one of my favorites, but I think it does actually fit. Opus is one of two fully instrumental songs, and both of the instrumentals are more dance, electronic, funk based. They're not exactly fitting to most of the other tracks, as I said. A lot of what Men I Trust makes is very calming, soothing, indie pop sort of tracks, and this is just not like extremely different mood wise, but it just does not fit to what we're previously hearing besides maybe Dazed. And so that to me really takes me out of it. Like, this is a big change up, and I'm just not a big fan of this one or the instrumental that comes later. But that is what it is. System, though, I do really like. I think this is one of the best on the tracks. I think it has a really nice mesh of two female vocalists. Again, I wish I knew more about like who the vocalists actually were, because I think that they both do really well on this, and I like how this whole track goes about, but unfortunately I don't. There's really not much I can say about them. So yeah, I would definitely say of all the tracks on this, I would say this is definitely one of the ones most important to listen to. I think that this is where they go with a lot of their future songs. This one and Cycle, I think, are pretty closely hinting to what comes in the future that they expand on. Endless Drive is another dancier track, and personally for me, I'm just not a big fan of their dancier songs. I like when they get a lot more calming and more into that indie pocket, but it's not horrible. It's a decent song, but just not personally for me. I also feel like this song definitely marks a clear notice of their unfound sound that they're probably trying to find at this point. They seem to have a lot of things focused on, but they're not sure exactly which focus to really go into and expand on. And I think that this, at this point, you kind of understand that. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this next track. It is, I believe, in Latin. It's another instrumental one. I will try and read it. It is, or at least part of it, Nasty Otonado. I'm not sure. It's a longer track list. It's, again, anyways, whatever, not important. It's another instrumental one. Follows pretty much the same vibe of Endless Drive, where it's a bit more dancey, and it also kind of feels like an extension of Opus early in the track list. Yeah, again, definitely I would put it towards the bottom for me. I don't really think it fits. I'm not sure. I think Opus had a different producer on it than the two guys already in the band, but this one might be the same, so maybe that's why this feels so different. Ecstatic Memoirs, I would say, has probably my favorite instrumental, but I'm kind of torn on how I feel about the spoken word that leads the track. I think that James, whoever that vocalist is, does a good job. I'm just not sure how I feel about the way it meshes with the rest of the album and the song itself. But I do really like the instrumental, and it is, I think, probably one of their best produced songs even to date. I really like it, and I feel like it's really smooth. And this honestly could have been a really good outro even to the album, but Intruit, I'm not sure how you pronounce that one either. This one is very different. It almost has a tribal-esque sort of sound to the instrumental, but it is led by an operatic singer. And this one really caught me off guard. I remember when I first listened to it. It's very strange, and I still find it to catch me off guard when I'm listening to the project. I often forget about this one. I feel like I can't properly say if it's good or bad. I can say how I feel about the instrumental. I like the instrumental. It's very minimal, and I feel like that helps for the singing, but I'm not someone who listens to opera or any singing like this. First of all, the singing's in Latin. I can't understand it. I can read, obviously the transcription of it, but I don't know whether her opera is considered good or if it's bad. I don't know. I for the most part, like what I'm hearing. It's definitely not one I'm like really gonna listen to, but it's not a must skip when listening to this. So I don't know. Torn on how I feel about that one. The last track is a complete spoken word, and funny enough, it's actually if you look on streaming, it's not by Men I Trust. It's by Careful Men, and I'm not sure how that's supposed to exactly link into the song. The song itself is essentially, as the narrator says, who is the same person who does the spoken word in Ecstatic Memoirs, he says about what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman. And he talks about it, but then the song kind of just ends. There's really no conclusion. There's no finale to wrap it all up. He's going and he's going, and then it just ends. And you're kind of left, I feel, with like no real satisfaction. It leads nowhere. It does nothing, and I feel it's a pretty sour way to end the album. It really doesn't work for me. If he would have gotten to a point of saying, you know, what is it to be a man, this, and this, and what is it to be a woman, this, and this, and then, well, you know, that's all arbitrary and blah, 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 and then he has some big grand message that he has to say, I feel that would have been very interesting, and it would have tied the album up really nicely, but it just doesn't. And so I find that extremely dissatisfying and is a pretty bad way to end the album, in my opinion. So, you know, that is the way it is. Yeah, it's a decent outing for their first project. I would give this about a 59%. I'm glad that with each release they seemingly just get better and better, because this one, as I said, I don't visit too often, and I think that they are definitely, at this point in their lives, Jesse and Dragos were definitely trying to find where to go. They had a couple sounds that they were good at, but they weren't sure which one to go after and perfect. So, yeah, that's my review of the album. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Bye now.